Well, welcome back to the Northumberland Yarns. What are we getting done this week? Well, I'm going to quickly show you some still images of the PTO casting. We've got the PTO casting painted this week. We've got all the bits that were bolted onto it painted this week. Can you remember in the video where we took it to bits and I picked up the little quarter diameter ball, which is the detent from the selector, and I said to you, don't lose this. Well, guess what? I lost it. So today I've had to order some replacement 1/4 inch stainless steel balls from my bearing supplier, and I'm waiting for them to come. We're going to hopefully get a start on rebuilding that PTO. I'm hoping that the video is going to be out by middle of the week next week, because hopefully over the weekend, early Monday, Tuesday, we'll crack on, we'll get it put back together, and we might get it up to the stage where the only thing left to do would be to put the selector in once those new 1/4 diameter balls turn up. So that's it. We'll quickly whiz through some still images here for you, show you where we're at, and on my way forward with it. At least we're on the right track till I lost the ball. Never mind. Right, a comment this week from Eric asking if I had a video to do with the steering gear rebuild. Well, Eric, unfortunately I rebuilt my steering gear earlier in the year before I started the video diaries of the rebuilds. However, I have got some stills that I took just purely and simply as a memory jog for me, so that when we're putting them back together we knew where the bits came from. However, our first image here is the steering gear as it came off the tractor. You see the rusty old tube, all the paint hanging off the steering box at the bottom. Second image is the condition that the base of the steering gear was in. The tub that it was sitting in on the casting was full of this black oil, and it was all contaminated, so it was a good chance that the balls were dirty and contaminated as well. So top and bottom bearings were being changed out here. The third image is the steering gear totally stripped out. Everything was took to bits, everything got a bath, everything got stripped off. You can see there's a little bit of paint left there still on the bottom of the steering box. However, as I say, look at the next image here. The steering gear has been totally stripped. The top bearings were replaced, the recirculating bearings in the bottom were changed out. New studs, new pins put in to hold the nut in place in the yoke. Probably the most difficult bit was actually to rebuild the recirculating gear. There are a couple of videos on YouTube of people doing this in different ways. The way that I did this, and I found it the easiest way to do it, was to rebuild the circulating tube, the recirculating tube, put it in place on the nut, and then stand the shaft upside down in the vise, keeping a hold of the nut with your hand, then move the nut to the very end of the scroll, so that the recirculating tube, the entry point of the recirculating tube, is basically just level with the end of that scroll, and then start to load the balls in, keeping your hand tight up around the bottom. The way the tube is shaped, the balls when you put them in should not be able to pass the bottom of the recirculating tube. They should be able to get us down the spiral as far as that tube, and then start to feed into the tube. And then as you push the extra balls in, they will come back up the tube and come out the top. And to stop the whole thing coming to bits, once I had it filled, a cable tied the nut on top and bottom so that it couldn't, because if you let go of it, it will just spin out and the balls will all drop out onto the floor. So you cable tie top and bottom to prevent it from coming out until you install the shaft and the nut back into the yoke inside your steering box. Then cut the cable ties off. Top bearings were changed out because the nut on the top had worn significantly, and there was quite a bit of play inside the tube, but the seat itself in the tube was fine. So we bought both the kits, I think from Sparex for that, and as I say, it was probably a morning's work to change them out. Final image is the whole thing reassembled and primed, getting wrapped up, waiting to go back onto the tractor when we are doing our final assembly. So as I say, I'm sorry I couldn't help you with that video, but as I say, there are on YouTube, there are several videos. Lance Makasgal, or otherwise known as Bundybears Shed, has got a steering tube of similar design that he's rebuilding, and the techniques are basically the same. So have a look at Bundybears Shed. I have put a link into the description of that particular video, so you pop across, have a look at it, and it'll give you some really good ideas on how Lance does it. Right, hope that's been helpful, Eric. Right, another one for Paul. Now then, Paul, your little spring clips, you were saying that you've got a spring clip, a K-type clip that is damaged in your PTO. I've been looking today online. I can find plenty of people that supply the ordinary internal external clips, but I haven't found anybody yet that will supply K-type. If I find anybody in the next couple of weeks, I'll let you know. I'll pop a comment somewhere, I'll get a message across to you, and I'll let you know. Now, and while we're on about spare parts, I'm just moving some stuff here. Right, so my unusual bits, we can all go out and we can all buy steering gear bearings, seals, wheel bearings, the common bits from the bearing manufacturers, engine kits from Sparex and people the same Agri line. The more unusual bits, I had to replace the rear axle casting on my tractor because the flanges on the outside where your final drives bolt on had burst due to corrosion in the nuts. So the person I use is a guy called Colin Stewart, that's S-T-U-A-R-T, and he's up in Aberdeen. Now that's a long way, but however, I went up to meet Colin. I wanted, at the time, my first things that I needed from Colin was an oil pump. My oil pump had getting snapped. I needed a replacement camshaft, and I needed a set of cam followers. So I found Colin on Facebook, phoned the guy up, and Colin he's great, he's easy to get along with. He will put the pieces in the post. But I had spoken to 3 or 4 people down in Northumberland here and they all said a similar thing about the oil pumps. There are different types, different lengths, different diameters, and for the price of the oil pump, I wanted to make sure that it was the right one. So I took my broken bits and we drove up to Aberdeen. It was, I think it was about 300 mile from where I am, but I drove up there, met Colin, we did all the comparisons, took me camshaft, took me oil pump bits, took me cam follower bits, checked them all out. Everything was wonderful. Colin, as I say, is a great guy, dead easy to get along with. He's got an amazing place. He's got all sorts of tractors up there, Massey Ferguson's, Fords, Davy Brown's, Farmalls. If you need parts, I'm going to put a picture up here of his Facebook page. You can go on Facebook and get him. His telephone number is in the description below the video. WhatsApp him. Get him on WhatsApp. He will supply you with your parts if he's got them. The thing is with Colin, he will not send you or sell you parts that he would not use himself. For an instance, I needed a set of the foot plates for either side of the tractor gearbox, and I also needed a set of front rims. While we were walking around his yard, I saw a 990 in the yard that had just come in and was breaking, and I mentioned it to Colin that I needed rims and the foot plates, and on both occasions he said, I've got some, but I'll not sell you those ones because I have better ones, and I will sell you the better ones. And as I say, Colin will not sell you parts, he will not use his self. After that, like the axle casing, the fan shroud, I'm trying to think, the fuel lines, I needed fuel lines for it. The two front rims came down. All you got to do, get them on WhatsApp, send them a picture of what you're after or a good description of what you're after, or even better, the part number. Colin will take them off the tractors that he has up there if he has them in stock, and he will pallet them up and send them to you. Obviously you've got to pay for the pallet, but Colin will pallet them up and send them to you. They normally arrive within a couple of days of Colin dispatching them. Now he does live, as I say, up in Aberdeenshire. He lives about 20-30 mile northwest-ish of Aberdeen itself. So, you know, it's best that, I find it best that Colin's in charge of the delivery side of it, because he can arrange it, that the collection from his yard is there to suit him, which is most important at the time, because he's there for the dispatch of them. So I'll give you a quick look at his page. If you need Davy Brown parts, as I say, he's also got Massey Ferguson's in, the little grey TE20s, Farmalls, Zetos. So if you need parts, unusual parts, like my hydraulic selector valve came from there, the rear axle casing came from there, let's say fuel lines, fan shroud casing, front wheels, I'm going to go back to them for rear wheels, and tin work. So have a look at Colin, have a chat to him, see what you can do together. Alright, well, I'm hoping that you've picked up on the fact that the audio is a little bit better this time, because we bought a Boya MM1 mic. It's on top of my phone there now, and hopefully the sound quality from this is going to be a lot better than the onboard mic that was on the phone. So we'll just try it out and see how we get on, because I've got that microphone, and I've also got, this is the mics that I use when we are out in the garage. We've got lapel mics with the radio set on it. I was going to try lapel mics that were wired to the phone, but I have watched other people doing similar type of videos, and they always struggle because you invariably either end up tripping over the wire or pulling the wire out or walking away with the wire attached and pulling everything onto the floor. So that's why we bought them. They weren't expensive. I think 59 quid. Gets you 2 of those and the receiver pops up on top of the camera in the hot shoe and just plugs in through the little lightning lead that you get for the iPhone 7 Pluses. So we'll see how this improves the audio, because I know there's nothing worse than watching videos with terrible audio. Let us know what you think. Alright, something else I did this week. I've had this in my garage for a while and it didn't gel until one day last week, and I think myself, could do that. This is my little umbilical arm that you've seen before. The thread on the end is a standard, what's that? That's a standard 1/4 UNC. That's what all camera mounts are. Right, the microphone top of here is a 1/4 UNC. The camera clip is a 1/4 UNC. This, anybody who's been on farms or around trailers will know exactly what this is. It's a magnetic back of a set of trailer lights. So your light fitting bolts on here. This sticks magnetically to your trailers. This is what's left when you reverse your trailer into a bale of hay and everything ends up on the floor. You end up with a couple of these. And I was looking at it this morning, it was stuck to me shelves in the garage. The only thing was the thread didn't fit into the bush. So got me measuring gear out, measured up the thread. The thread was 0.257 and the 7th thou was rust, because when I tried to screw it in first, it would only go in about half a turn and stop. So, and I thought myself it was a different thread and that's why I measured it, but it isn't. It is 1/4 UNC, but it was corroded. So I just ran me dye down it, tidied, took the file to the top, cleaned a nice good chamfer onto the top, threaded the dye down, closed the dye up, threaded it down again, and it works beautifully. So we now have a magnetic base that I can stick to shelving, stick to engine blocks, stick to bits of metal, put a telephone on the end. Gives us a much bigger scope for being able to get better shots forward. We might try it out when we start to rebuild the PTO casing. Sunday, Monday, maybe? We'll see what the weather's like. Well, thanks for visiting. That's it for another week from Northumberland. As I say, hopefully we'll have the video released Wednesday or Thursday about the PTO being reassembled. Anyone looking for parts, pop in and see Colin. Anyone else who is looking for advice or information, you know, put a message in the comments. If we can help you, we will. But remember, I am no expert on Davy Browns. I'm an engineer. I've been an engineer all my life, but I am no expert on Davy Browns. I am learning as I'm going along. I've just got some good people on the end of telephones like Colin that will bend over backwards to help with. So if you like our videos, please give a thumbs up. It helps the channel. Subscribe so you don't miss any more future videos from us, and we'll see you during the week. Thanks very much for coming now. Bye.